to runic decks, but runic decks. You timed out.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? It's your boy LoganJYA, and I'm honored and privileged to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Miles, who may very well be the greatest Drytron player in North America. Miles, I want to say first and foremost to you, congratulations on getting top 16 at the YCS CANCUN, and I want to ask you, my friend, how are you doing? How are you feeling after such another remarkable accomplishment?
Feeling great. I really wish I could have taken this home. Once I got to top 32 and won my top 32 match, I felt like my deck was built really well to do what I wanted it to do, and it had been doing it all day. And I thought I would make it deeper. Wound up losing just a heartbreaker game in top 16, game 3. My opponent drew Imperm, Veiler, Druis Worm, and I played through Imperm, Veiler. When he impermed me twice, I was like, oh god, the game's over. Because I had an extra extender, so I was just going to extend, summon out Tribute to Ben 10, and then Tribute Summon for Vantage Roller, because he impermed me. I'm like, the odds he has a third imperm in his deck, and he's playing hand traps, so I know there's no board breakers. Or the odds that there are board breakers are low. So I'm like, I'm just going to Tribute Summon for Vantage Roller. So I send Zeta to the graveyard. I go to summon it. He freaking Druis Worms me. So I was like, oh my god. So I made Little Knight, banishes Druis Worm, pass back to him. He's got one card in hand. He draws, and he has freaking Dark Beckoning Beast and 1-for-1. So I lose.
Oh my god.
It's so heartbreaking.
Built different. Jesus.
He God-handed me. And I wasn't even reading Druids because he held it for so long because he wanted to use the imperms first. But
Understandable.
Oh well, it happens. And I'll get him next time. We're gonna win it. We're gonna win the YCS one day.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, if there's any man who's built for the job, it's our man Miles, and we'll talk more about the matchups in detail a little bit later on. But you guys can see the profile on the stream. You're not going to want to click off here yet because we're going to get all to the deep, juicy details. You need to understand the logic behind the decisions here because you're looking at this list right now. Your head might be spinning, but don't worry, we're going to break it down for you. Before we do that, Miles, who you want to shout out?
All right, we'll do some quick shout outs. So my biggest shout out goes to my teammate Bryce. Bryce spent lots of hours testing with me, lots of hours theory crafting stuff with me. Last minute, he told me, do not play Daruma Cannon in the main deck, even though I love Daruma Cannon. He was like, you got to play Featherstorm. I thought about it. The logic made too much sense, so I decided to play Featherstorm. We talked about every card in this deck, essentially, for hours on end, and he really helped me craft it. So big major shout out to Bryce. I think he's one of the best deck builders in Houston. Shout out to my other teammates, Colby and Austin. Shout out to my former teammate, Corey. He quit the team, took a break from Yu-Gi-Oh! Unfortunately, to pursue his job stuff, but he's still a great friend of mine. Shout out to James, Cody Eckenhorst, and Talden. They all helped me test at various points. Shout out to the people who I stayed with in Cancun, who were not my teammates, but they were great hosts, and they really were supportive the whole weekend. Were Zachary Rodriguez and David Flores, some Houston legends, and Braden, who's a really sweet kid, and he'll get his top cut soon. And then also, really quick, rapid round, Jason, Anthony, Brenner, Samuel Burke, William, Ibra Wayne, Brent, Preston, Danny, and some etc. ones on there. They were all really supportive. Sent me messages after the YCS, and they were really supportive and cool, so.
Yeah, bless up, bless up. Too many folks to run back through. Just going to say bless up to the homies. All right, well, without further ado, let's dive on into the list, and you know how we do things. I am going to run through the cards, but we're going to be pausing for questions as we go through. You can see the Drytron lineup here. We got 3 of all the cool guys, right? Triple Alpha, Zeta, Gamma, Delta, triple New-2. This is a New-2 dedicated build. We got your 1-of copy of your Sartron. This is the ratio we went in with in a 51-card deck. We can talk more so about the math that goes behind this a little bit later. I'm going to finish up with the monsters real quick. We got 1 of the Ursartron, which we know ends up being a pretty essential combo piece and extender. We got Lancia locked and loaded alongside the Vanity's Ruler, double copies of Diviner, and then for our ritual lineup, 1 Draco Nids, 1 Big Daddy, 1 Natasha, and triple Ben 10 in the main for the New-2 build, as well as the Magic Key package, that being Mr. Beta Buster and the Unlocking. So let's pause here real quick to talk about the logic behind the ratio here for maxing out on all of the good names. I feel like this probably doesn't require too much of an explanation, but if you'd like to divulge a little bit more of your inspiration as to why you landed on this number, I want to turn it over to you.
Okay, so I've always been a fan of running all 3 of all the hard names, even back in the day. I mean, this is an aggressive deck. You want to see the names because the names have to attribute themselves. That's how Drytrons work. And New-2 just lets you bridge all the other names to every other name. So I really, really like playing Mewtwo. I think that card is a really cool way to play the deck, and also, um, I and this is obviously weird, and I know it's weird. And so I wanted to partially explain some of the weirdness, but Mewtwo is also probably the best Drytron to draw into Shifter. And so I knew that because Yubel was the best deck, and Yubel usually has to pass on Shifter, unless you were doing like a weird combo like Pack or Sam were doing at the tournament. You technically just passes on Shifter. There's not much they can do. So what you can do in this deck is you can go, play a Drytron field spell or use Alpha to tribute something, special out Mewtwo, search another name, summon that name, tributing the Benton, you search with Alpha, and then slap the Mewtwo on top of the Alpha to make Fuko, and now you have Fuko Lancia. And any deck that shifted you, usually this format, can't beat Fuko, and they can't beat Lancia. So that's how I was dealing with the counter matchups to Yubel that I was expecting people to play in this region. So I guess that also went into my deck building strategy too, was realizing that I felt like going into it, this is going to be a really rogue heavy region, and oddly enough, it was not. But there was a lot of Tenpai and a lot of Fiendsmith Yubel, so I didn't hate maining the Lancia for either of those matchups either, because oddly enough, the Lancia, if they're on the double Yama play, cuts them off from that. If they're on it cuts them off on Gruesome Gravestormer, so they usually can't get to Varudris. So if you're hard drawn against that matchup, it's not terrible. It's not like the greatest thing, but it does cut them off from an inboard piece that's hard to deal with. I really want to draw Mewtwo. Bringing it out from the deck too is also really broken. So Mewtwo lets me play through Shifter really, really well by giving me additional names, especially the name that gets me to Benton that also gets me to Lancia. So it bridges that whole line together to help me beat Shifter decks.
So you anticipated seeing a lot of rogue given the region that the tournament was taking place in, and that influenced how you ended up building the deck for the event itself. I want to pivot again real quick. We got triple Ben 10 and Natasha all in the main as well. We've seen a lot of players though who are choosing to go with the Mewtwo build, pivot away from Ben 10 and Natasha. So
that's an error.
Let's hear about it. Okay, you say it's an error. Let's hear why.
Okay. I think it is a massive error because I already know right off the bat, two of the decks in the format, the best counter matchup to Yubel is probably Tenpai. And Tenpai makes weird game states because they have the guys that can't be destroyed by battle. They get the synchro in your battle phase. If they have Chandra and all that they're stupid cards that synchro. So, and Yubel has a bunch of Spirit Reapers. So they're annoying to deal with. So what the game plan with Natasha was always, if I'm in a game state that I'm finding hard to navigate, she solves it, right? So you're not going to have Droplet every time. You're not going to have Book of Eclipse every time. You're not going to have access to Dark Roller to clean up those game states. So on the subsequent turns, where after you've done your initial combo, you have all four of the regular names in your graveyard almost always immediately, right? So like, I can play my turn 2 without Mewtwo, if needed. And so Natasha was probably the most clutch ritual monster, maybe the most clutch monster in general in this deck, maybe other than Lancia, but she was amazing. I won several games in game 3s in time with her that I probably would have won either way, but with the new rules, like you just need to be able to win in time. And so I did not regret playing Natasha, not one bit. You're going to have weird game states where, like, if you could have just stolen Chandra and taken a tuner off the Tenpai board, that you win those games where you would have lost them otherwise. And so I'm a big believer in Natasha still. I think she definitely earned her spot. I've considered cutting her before too, and then I cut her and hated it. And I was losing a lot of games that I could have won otherwise. So she's absolutely still has a spot in this deck. So,
and I really like that logic as well. And I feel as though when I cut Natasha from a Drytron build, it does feel like a part of myself is missing. The soul of the deck.
Oh my god, she's awesome.
Is gone. And I like how you point out the fact that this is a supplemental board breaker that's inarchetypal. Really, it really is. So, yeah. Well,
like I said, you just get into these situations now where the board state is not clean. It's not a board state you can just chop through. And like, you don't want a Little Knight because you can't kill them. So you want something like Natasha, and I used her a lot. I used her a lot over the weekend. So
Heck yeah, and we'll hear all about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's get through the spells real quick. Good consistency cards. We got triple emergency, triple nova, going double Fafnir. Only one Meteonis, everybody.
Oh.
Only one. It's all you need. Please stop playing 2. Learn the lesson.
I did. That's my fault. So I used to play 2.
I know you did. I know you did, and you learned the lesson. Thank God.
Well, you don't have to play 2 anymore. It was correct, but now it's not. So.
All right. We can agree to disagree on that.
Okay.
Moving on. Foolish, called by triple droplet, triple talent, double thrust, the one of Dank Ruler, and then 2 copies of the Book of Eclipse. So I'm gonna say this: you got very creative when it came to the ratios on the board breakers. And I'll lump the traps in here real quick too. We got the unlocking window that goes with Beto Buster, and we got the Harpy's Feather Storm. For those of you who frequent the channel, you know what the heck this is for. You look into the extra deck real quick. We not got 1, we got 2 targets for this mofo, in the form of Fuko as well as a Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale. I want to spend some time talking about your ratios for board breakers here, how you landed on these numbers here. We chose to max out talents. I can kind of understand why. It's serving double duty going first or going second. The 1 of Dark Ruler and the 2 of Book of Eclipse is interesting to me. What led you to A, picking these cards as your board breakers, and B, landing on these numbers in your 51 card pile?
Yeah, so I knew that if I won the die roll against Ubel, and I was able to get to my inboard, I wasn't going to lose anyway. And I'd already embraced the fact that, like, I was more than likely going to go to a bunch of game 3s against Ubel, but if I won the die roll, it was going to be way more in my favor than if not, especially post-sighting since I have D-Barrier, which I think is actually super underrated against Ubel. There's a lot of things they cannot do if they can't fusion summon, so I really love D-Barrier against them. So game 3s, I was not worried, especially with Sphere Mode coming in my deck and increasing my ratios even higher of going second board breakers. And the other copy of Thrust and the other copy of Dark Ruler. So I embraced game 3. I think I've talked to you this about before. Like I don't stress when I get to go to game 3 in this deck. But I wanted an amount of board breakers that fulfilled the role that they were good going first and good going second, with Dark Ruler being the only exception to that rule, where it's really only good going second. That's why I'm only playing 1 copy of it as a searchable thrust target. I was on 3 Book of Eclipse last minute, literally maybe 20 minutes before I filled my deck list out. I decided to go to 3 Ben 10. I was on 2. And the only reason I did that was because I was planning to try and play around more shifter decks, and opening Ben 10 makes that way easier. And so I decided that I was just going to embrace playing 1 fewer going second card for a card that let me beat those really awful matchups that played shifter. And so the 3rd Benton would have been a 3rd Book of Eclipse, like literally 30 minutes prior.
Well, it's also we can also mention the fact that it's the third Natasha steal, which is also
correct, and that
pivotal.
And that came up. Oh my god! One time at the tournament, this dude was like, "What does Natasha do?" You know? Oh my god, makes my heart like just freaking flutter out of my chest.
You're gonna learn today, son. You're gonna learn today.
And I told him, I was like, you need to read the card because you're not going to believe me if I tell you. So I stole 3 of his guys and, killed him. But definitely a lesson learned for him. But I was really close to playing the 3rd Book of Eclipse. Went with a little extra engine this time around. But I wouldn't fault anyone for playing the 3rd Book of Eclipse, because that card serves really awesome double duty in this deck. Because you can go Nova, summon Mewtwo. Now a lot of people are tempted to Imperm your Mewtwo. Yeah. And then you just Book of Eclipse it, and then you keep playing, and that's so rewarding. That's
really broken. You sack the Mewtwo, bring it right back. It's
so stupid. It's insane. So, yeah. But I really like Book of Eclipse. I really wish I could have fit a 3rd, but crunching the numbers on 52, it's not worth it to add the 52nd card. So, we didn't want to.
Okay, all right. And before we move on to, we're going to do extra then side. Before we move on, is there anything you would find yourself changing in the main deck for the future?
I really, really like this main deck. I think the one thing that I will point out is that I think me doing the Magic Key thing is a little bit off what I think most people are trending towards, which is the Secret Village combo. Mm-hmm. And I tested the Secret Village combo, obviously. But one thing that I really valued is my extra deck. And the Secret Village combo takes up like 3 slots in your extra. And so I wanted the Lyrilusc Bird, which oddly enough didn't come up very often, but in testing, having 2 cards that stall out Tenpai did come up. And so I wanted that little extra utility of having Intis in my extra, and I loved Dawn Dragster. That card was awesome all day. And so I like the utility in my extra deck. I didn't like the Secret Village took a lot of that away from me. And oddly enough, the unlocking card, one of the reasons why we decided to play over 44 was a couple things. I played the 44 card build that I told you I was testing before at locals like a couple times, and I kept drawing Zeta and Ritual Spell together, and it was tilting me out. Oh my! It was tilting me out. So I was like, no, I gotta increase the deck size. So we had been testing 51 for a long time, and the other reason why I like unlocking, besides the fact that if you're playing a bigger deck, you can hide it, and I get my extra deck utility by playing the Magic Key stuff, is that it changes attributes. And I don't know if you knew this, but changing attributes against Yubel or any deck that plays Fiendsmith is really good. So they can't make a lot of their stuff.
That's what Angel told us not too long ago with his regional list, is the secret effect, and it's not even a secret anymore. It's honestly one of the main incentives for playing the package now, is the Magic Key shifting out, call Divine, call something that will blatantly F over your opponent. Did you find yourself more oftentimes than not calling Divine with the unlocking?
Yeah, I just call Divine every time.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's move on to the extra. I think it was a good pivot because we were talking about Dawn Dragster. I want to move over the extra deck here. We've got the Dawn Dragster alongside the two Herald targets, being Entis and Herald of the Arclight. Anima, IP, SP, Dynamundo, the Phoenix. I know you're a huge fan of Phoenix. Access Code Talker, Access Code Smack Talker, where I'm going to be talking smack about this guy in a little bit, especially seeing that you're playing no Link 3s and still choosing to go for Access Code. I'm going to clown you a little bit. I'm like, bro, come on, you don't...
It's the right call.
Laurel Sword.
It's the right
come
call.
on. Oh my god. All right, we'll talk about it. 2 copies of Moy Beta, 1 Downard, and then again, you've already kind of alluded to this, but the 1 Laralusk as well as Fuko alongside Zeus. We are the Zeus deck. You're playing 2 means of getting to it, as well as 2 means of, as you put it, stalling out Tenpai. Do you feel as though that dedicating these 2 slots to these rank 1s was worthwhile?
I still would. I think Laralusk is like the 15th extra deck card for me. It was very close between her and Underworld Goddess.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it was very close. I wound up on her because, like I said, I expected there to be a lot of Tenpai, which there was. And I like the ability to Zeus with her other than Fuko, because sometimes you need her to get through like those weird board states again to attack directly over things that you can't. You don't want to run your Fuko into weird stuff. So she just bypasses all that. She could be a Link 3. I did test Unicorn still. She could be the Underworld Goddess. There's a few things she could be, but or if you wanted to, you could do a little more engine, and you could play the statue Azaroon and make that Silhouette Rabbit. That was actually really close too.
Would that F up your math a little bit if you were introducing another brick into the main?
Yeah, I'd play 60.
Okay.
So those 3 cards, I think, like Silhouette Rabbit, Underworld, a Link 3, like those would all be contenders for that slot. But I don't regret playing her. I doubt any of those other cards would have come up very often either. But yeah, so.
Fair enough. Let's pivot. Let's pivot to Smack Talker here.
Mm-hmm.
Playing Access Code. We're not playing any Link 3s. It makes it a little bit trickier to close out games, arguably so. Or at least maybe that's what the uneducated eye would be thinking. How about you educate us real quick, Miles? Why is Access Code Talker correct in your build?
I have to out multiple cards against Yubel usually. So if I have a Blue Crow, I'm going to use Phoenix to pop it, probably, and then I'm going to use Access Code to pop the Nightmare Pain so I can try and kill them. So Nightmare Pain's annoying to deal with. Also, this card deals with Floodgates, which Moral Sword does not. So like you can just make Access Code and then banish it off the field to get rid of something that you don't want. If it's Skill Drain or Power Sink Stone or whatever other weird Floodgate or somebody's playing. So also, I just need cards to Link climb up into, and so I never miss game, especially with the 5K guy and the fact we shut out the 4K guy so quickly now. So I'm never missing game, especially with Dad legal. So I did not regret playing this card. He came up way too much. I was popping everybody's field with this. So I like Moral Sword. I like Moral Sword, but I think Access Code's just better.
Okay, fair enough, guys. If you need the pops, you know who you're choosing. You're going with the Smack Talker. I think that's all the questions I have for the extra, with one exception being the Dawn Dragster. You alluded to this being phenomenal. Tell me a little bit more about that, especially considering we're also main decking the Vanities Ruler. This is going to creep into the discussion of end boards, so if we dive into it a little early, I'm completely okay with that. But Dawn Dragster, how did it perform, and maybe start to tell us what your end boards were looking like?
Yeah, so, okay. Well, let's talk about... so I'll explain this in the context of Vanities Ruler. So I never ended on Vanities Ruler. That is not why he was there. He was there because I didn't know how many people would be playing Bystials because I didn't know the general like attitude towards them for this tournament. I knew that the last data I had was Lil, YCS Lil, and it was like 50-50 on Bystials. It was like some people played them, some people didn't. And in the situation where you get Bystial, your best bet is to like if you get Bystial a lot, 2 or 3 times, well usually twice. If you get Bystial twice, your best bet, or sorry, not Bystial twice. I apologize. If you get like hand trapped and Bystial, you can usually Little Knight the Bystial and then drop Vantage Roller, right? And so that's usually winds up. He becomes my backup plan. And he's really, really broken in simplified game states. So they like halfway. Usually they're not breaking my board almost ever. But if it's in a simplified game state where you got hand trapped a bunch of times, you set up some form of interaction against them. They weren't able to break through your stuff and kill you. It pop out to you. You go Benton, search Vantage Roller. It forces everything out, like instantly, just searching the card. And so him being just a threat that I could drop made people play really weird, and in my favor. So I did win several games off of him, but he was never my inboard goal, like almost ever. And the reason why is because the inboard I usually tried to end is like I get a counter trap, I get 2 spell and trap negates. Where's all your spell and trap negates? You got a Varudris, you got 1 and a Desiree. Exactly. I have 3 spell and trap negates, and I got 4 monster negates. So.
Sugma and Ligma. Perfect.
Yeah.
I want to run through the side real quick, because I think there's something else in here that may dictate a little bit more of the end board discussion. Spell and trap removal. We got the Harpy's Feather Duster. This doesn't do it justice. You see this copy here. This man plays a very fancy pants, super rare copy of the Feather Duster. Even though they can't see it, I still want to talk about it.
Appreciate
Triple
it.
copies of the Cosmic. The 1 Dark Ruler, the second copy of Dark Ruler, as well as the 3rd copy of Thrust. I'm going to save this guy. Triple copies of D-Barrier, 2 copies of Lancia, and then triple copies of the Sphere Mode. I saw people asking about this in chat. The last card, I'm calling it card 15. He may disagree with this. We've got Meteora Drytron. This is one of the new support cards that came out alongside Mewtwo. This is also where I want to start our discussion in the side deck. Explain to me the logic of why you are choosing to play this card. I'm going to put this in the context of when I first read this card. I felt like it was the weakest card out of the new support, and I felt as though it didn't have a home in the main, and I sure as hell didn't even think it had a home in the side. In testing, I felt like it restricted the play style a little bit too much, and also, it made it so you had to hold. It cut you back to only 1 ritual summon per turn once again. Tell me why. Tell me why. Explain the decision here.
Okay, so first of all, I think I love doing these types of deck profiles with you because you give me an opportunity to maybe help some people think about the game a little bit differently. So I don't want to discourage people from thinking about cards in terms of good and bad, because there definitely are some bad cards, and there's obviously a qualitative difference between good and bad. But a lot of cards, especially cards like this one, they have a role and a purpose depending on the context, you know what I mean? So Meteoroa is an incredible card against certain matchups and especially in certain game states. So if you're playing against Runic, this card is incredible because you will always outgrind them. If they banish your ritual spell, you can grab it back with this card because it does not say add Drytron monsters. I feel like a lot of people thought that it said Drytron monsters, but if they go Flashing Fire and they banish Nova and Bright Knight, you can add back Nova and Bright Knight. So your grind game is stupid against Runic. You will outgrind Runic, which sounds incredible, but this card will let you outgrind Runic. And then what you'll wind up doing is they'll be like, okay, we'll have to get Runic Destruction to pop that card. And then you'll just ritual summon out a big ritual on their turn, and then you'll keep Moo Beta on the field. You'll start putting up spell and trap negates that they can't deal with. Eventually you'll drive Vantage Roller so they can't even summon out Runic cards, and then you'll kill them. So, this card against that deck in particular, I love it for that matchup. And big credit to Meteoroa, because I played against the Salad guy. In game 1, he kicked my butt. And so I don't want to lose, obviously. So game 2, I got double Bystial. I got DD Crowed on my ritual spell. And eventually I got back to Mewtwo during the game. And I go Mewtwo, search Sartron, search Fafnir, search Meteoroa, got back my ritual spell, killed my opponent.
Just having such a clear answer to Meteonis being banished That feels pretty good. Yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm sold yet, but you're definitely leaning me more so in the direction.
It is not objectively like an amazing card in all game states, but it's a card that is really good against Runic, and it's really good in game states where, like, if I play game one and my opponent Bismal me 3 times, I'm like, I'm bringing in Meteoroa, because I want to get my resources back. So I definitely didn't hate this card. I actually really liked it. I only brought it in like a couple times, and I didn't play against any Runic. Well, sorry, I did play against one Runic, but it didn't matter because I just killed the guy. But Meteoroa in testing had come up several times against Runic decks, so I actually really like that card.
I'd say with your side deck, there's no way in hell that you're losing to Runic with how this thing is looking. Let's keep going in the side here. We got the Sphere mode. Opting for Sphere mode, I mean, given what Fiendsmith Ubel chooses to end on, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. I will say this, though. You can't really target this card. Am I correct on that? So you can't Natasha steal this guy.
No, I just usually wind up killing it with access code.
Oh, yeah, that would work. Okay.
Or I wind up just Zeusing them. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that Sphere mode does that is really underrated is, like, once you just resolve it, if you can survive against Ubel, their next turn sucks. Like, they don't have anything else in the extra that you're scared of. Once you've outed, like, the Varudris and the Desiree and it's gone, and you've outed, like, a bunch of the other stuff, or the Caesar, like, after that, they don't do anything you're especially super terrified of. Like, you have to play through another Phantom, and that's pretty much it. So, but no, like, if you can outgrind their extra, which is hilarious, but you can outgrind their extra.
That's fair, but I will say that with the caveat of you better not be leaving any big boys on, because you can get gimped real quick.
You definitely can.
All right. One more thing on the side deck before we move into maybe anything else you want to talk about, M boards and matchups and stuff. The 2 additional Lancias in here. Before we started recording, you were telling me a little bit more why you were choosing to play this. What matchup were these Lancias for?
I'm just really scared of Ritual Beast. I hate Protoss. That was a card that needed to stay on the ban list, but this card FTK'd Ritual Beast, and I was just scared of Ritual Beast. So I was like, I wanted a chance to draw a card that let me, skip their turn like they were trying to do to me.
I like that. I love that logic. Taking a look at the deck as a whole, anything else that you would see yourself changing in the side or extra?
Yeah, honestly, like, I can't fault myself playing Cosmic, but that was the card that came up the least in my deck. I was really wishing I had a Lightning Storms, and maybe like a Lava Golem. Like, if I could have like 2 Lightning Storms and like a Lava Golem, especially since Lightning Storm searchable with Thrust, that would have been cool. But in theory, like I said, I can't fault myself for playing Cosmic because I expected there to be a lot more Runic variants, but there wasn't. The other point people could say was like, but like you can go Dark Ruler, and then they go Chain Desiree, and you go, okay, Chain Cosmic. But that just doesn't come up that often. I'd rather just tribute off all their stuff right away.
51 cards here. It's a little daunting. Let's talk a little bit about the math here. Before we started recording today, you told me earlier on that seldom did you ever brick, maybe 1 time in the entirety of the tournament. That's sometimes a little hard to believe when we're looking at something like this. Can you explain a little bit more the logic behind the math and why a build like this works?
Well, the math is that there's half names. So usually in all the builds that I've done well with in the past, and the accepted wisdom on this deck has been that half names, or as close to half names as possible, is what you want, right? And as long as you resolve a new 2, this is the crazy thing about new 2. This is why I think this card's incredible. Is because Drytrons are just machine ritual dragon rulers, and new 2 equals basically almost 4 names by itself throughout the course of the combo. And if you just open any other name, you've got every name in rotation. Playing 24 names in 51 is not that far off from the math by doing something like 18 names in 42, or like 20 names in 42, or 21 names in 42. The math is like negligible at that point. And so I'm close to half names, very close to half names. And then my engine is about the same engine as it would be in like your typical ratio, which would be something like what? Like the 9 or 10 non-engine you get in like 42 or 40. Because usually Drytron can only afford to play something like Talents, Droplet, and like 2 other non-engine pieces. And so the math in 51 with my non-engine is almost about the same. Like I said, the only thing I opted for was I opted for a little more engine than non-engine by playing the third Benton over the third Book of Eclipse, but like the math is so marginal at that point, I decided to keep doing that. Additionally, there were a couple cards I didn't want to draw, at least going first. Like, I would much rather search my Lancia. I'd much rather search my Vantage Ruler if I needed it. I'd much rather search my my Magic Key unlocking, so increasing the deck size made that, and it reduces redundancy too. Because I'm playing a bunch of 3-of names, it's really nice to draw, you know, Alpha, New2, Cyber Emergency, Thrust, and Book of Eclipse, but it's terrible to draw double Zeta, Alpha, you know, Talents. You know what I mean? So, like,
You are burying your deck in diversity in a way, and that is helping your overall consistency. Don't be fooled by the big number here. The big number is an asset, not a detriment.
I didn't really get to talk about it, but I told you before we started the deck profile, I was like within a few minutes of playing a 60-card build, you know, and I'd been doing really good. I played a lot online, and I was climbing up to decently high ranks on a bunch of the sims, just playing 60-card builds. So I think the direction that this deck can take now with New2, like, it's odd because like the lock is really xenophobic, you know, it locks you into machine rituals, so like you can't do cast max stuff anymore, but the deck building possibilities are open, you know, at least in terms of size, in my opinion.
For one, the note that Miles wants to go out on is that size does matter, okay? All right. No, this is excellent. All right, I want to transition over real quick. Let's talk a little bit about your matchups throughout the tournament. How many rounds were we facing down? And if you can recall them, let's take a trip through what your day looked like.
Yeah, so I played 9 rounds of Swiss, 2 rounds on Top Cut. I went 7-1-1 in Swiss. My one draw was to the Salad player, and that was because I was literally at the point where I knew his deck was built to beat mine, because that one game I told you about the Meteora thing.
Yeah.
Literally, game 1, it was like hand trap, Droll in the main deck. So I was like, this guy's main decking Droll. This is crazy. And so I was like, I am fine with a draw against this guy because I think he just straight up has a deck built to destroy mine. So the draw was totally welcome in that matchup. But I played against Tenpai, the first 4 rounds of the tournament. I think over the course of this tournament, I got shifted like a total of 10 times, and I only lost a shifter 1 time.
Bro!
Yeah.
Built different!
Well,
You're shifting the shifters!
It's the Lancia. So I played against Tenpai, Sprite, Live Twin, Runic. Round 5, so he had the same record as me. He was X1. I lost my round 2 and then went undefeated until top 16. Then I played against Salad after the Sprite 12th turn Runic player. Then I played against 3 Fiendsmith Ubel players in a row. That was to get to Top Cut. And then I played against a Kashtira deck in Top Cut. He shifted me. I beat him. Then I played against Fiendsmith Ubel in the top 16. And that's where I lost my Heartbreaker game 3. I really felt like I was going to win the tournament. I really did. But yeah, so 4 Tenpai, 4 Fiendsmith Ubels, 1 Sprite, Lifetime Runic, 1 Salad, and 1 Kashtira.
Excellent. So, well, you've already told us why the Salamangreat matchup was so memorable. Is there any other memorable moments that you want to call explicit attention to?
I played against a lot of really cool guys, and the language barrier wasn't as big of an issue. I just had a great experience. Great tournament experience. Central American players were real impressive. Enjoyed playing against them. They're really cool guys. I don't know. I had a lot of great duels at this tournament.
And I think that's a great note to go out on, everybody. I want you all to do me a favor. Give Miles the praise he deserves in the chat, in the comments. Let this man know he's always continuing to innovate on the front of Drytron. One of the most brilliant minds to ever pick up the deck. Miles, I want to congratulate you once again on your excellent performance, and thank you so very much for taking the time to share all this valuable information with everybody who's going to watch this, man. You are the GOAT. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, everybody, we're going to round out the video here. LoganJYA signing off. A great day, and we'll see you beautiful people later. Peace.